Good morning. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. I am so happy to meet you all here today to give you a fantastic word from the Lord and also to share a wonderful guest with you on today. Someone who has some wonderful, wonderful wisdom that she would like to impart and to help you in an area in your life where you might be struggling. What I want to talk to you about briefly is 3 reasons why you need Jesus. There are many reasons why we do, but there are 3 main reasons that I want to touch on today. And one is because you have a past. You cannot go back, but He can. The Bible said He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Mm-hmm. And also, He can walk into those places of sin and failure and wipe your slate clean, and He can give you a new beginning every time you need to have a new beginning, and that comes with repentance. The next reason why we need Jesus is because you need a friend at all times, a friend that will stick with you closer than any brother. Jesus knows the worst about you, and yet He believes the best in you. Why? Because He sees you not as you are, but as you will be when He gets through with you. And also, He's paid the price for you. So He knows all that you can be because He was responsible and had a perfect hand into who you were created to be in this world. And third, because He holds your future. Yes, indeed. I thank God that He holds my future. Who else are you going to trust with your future? Who else can really, truly be trusted with your future? In God's hands, in the hands of Jesus, you are safe and secure, not just today, not just in your present hour, but because He holds tomorrow, you are safe for tomorrow and all out through eternity. His word says, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. In those days when you pray, I will listen. Listen, it is important to know that Jesus has to be important in your life. It is important for you to know how to have access to Him 24/7. He is only a prayer away. And with that, we're going to bring on our guest to this week and let her share some things with you that I know are going to make a difference in your life, because there has been a lot that came against her life, that would try to defeat her, but she is living a life that God has called her to, that is a blessing to so many people, and her testimony needs to be heard. She needs to give you an opportunity to look at yourself so that you can see the areas where you think you can't make it, where you might be struggling, and you will know for yourself that God has no respect of persons. What He has done for one, He will do for another. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on for this week, and her name is Elder Tanya Tilghman. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Marci.
I am so happy that you're here, and I am excited that you are going to share with us the great things that God is doing in your life. Tell us who you are. First, introduce yourself, and
Okay.
and what you do, and how it's a blessing to so many people. And I know it's a lot, but you've got to pick and choose a few things. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for having me, Dr. Marci. My name is Tanya Tilghman, and I'm the owner of Can You Picture This Designs? And Can You Picture This Designs is a faceted firm. We do print and graphic designs for a lot of different industries, the nonprofit sector. But most recently, we have expanded our services to funeral homes and memorial sites to help families produce products that would serve their loved ones in a time of grief. So we started our business back, well, believe it or not, for years, but most recently, back in 2018, I became an entrepreneur full time, which means this is my only source of income.
Mm-hmm.
So it has definitely been a journey to get to this place, but I'm exactly in the vein, as my awesome bishop often says, I'm actually in the vein where I need to be, and have garnished much success in
Mm-hmm.
the funeral industry, which is probably the one that I'll talk about on this morning.
Okay, good. And before, tell us how you got started in this industry.
Okay,
Tell
so
us.
many.
Mhm.
No, go ahead. Uh huh.
I was going to say you were doing some other things. In other words, just give us a sample of what you were doing before and how you segued right into the funeral industry.
Okay. So so I had been doing this pretty much as a hobby for at least the past 20 plus years. And it's so funny, me and my husband were actually talking about this a few days ago. When my husband was in the military, I got the opportunity to go to a program to teach me how to design, to do, just basic graphic design.
Mhm.
And it was a starter class on Photoshop and things like that. So I was able to take the class. And then when I took the class, people would start asking me to do, little things for them on the side. I've done stuff for Dr. Marci and
Mhm.
a lot of my friends. And then what happened was many years went by, and I was still doing it as a side job, and I was working a full time job. And my full time job, I actually got fired from my full
Mhm.
time
So
job.
getting fired is
So,
not always a bad thing, is it?
right, it's not always a bad thing. But I just recognized in that moment that what the enemy meant for my detriment, God turned that thing
Mhm.
around to be a beautiful and prosperous thing. The Bible says that he wished that we will be prosperous in good health, even as our soul prospers, and that we are not like people without hope. Like, God sees our future and our end. And I was
Mhm.
just so devastated at first by losing my job, but then it turned out to be an awesome blessing, because I don't think I would have ever left my job, not
Mhm.
voluntarily.
Yeah.
But
Voluntarily. Okay.
yeah, but I was able to speak with my husband, and he said at this time, he said you needed to start your business, make this a full-time thing. And I did.
Now, how did you go about it? How did you actually get started, and what do you do? And I don't know if you have any samples of anything to show us, but if you do, please do. But
I
uh,
I do.
how how did you go from physically starting it, and tell us what you're doing today, because you got to give us a couple of success stories. Now you may
Okay.
not be able to get on this on the in the next few minutes, but at least
Hmm.
give us the transition of how you got started, because someone listening out there today wants to know how they can get their business started.
Right. So it was a lot of people, when you hear about starting a business, it sounds very scary. It definitely is a process. So the first thing that I did was I did my research. I went to look to see if there were people that actually did what I do specifically. Like, are there people that just sit at their desks all day and create funeral programs? And I found a
Mhm.
couple of companies that actually did, and they were not in this area. So the first thing that I knew was that this was an area that needed that market, that needed this
Mhm.
product. A lot of the other companies, they were shipping in, and then I spoke with some of the funeral home owners that I have relationships with, and I said, listen, if I start this as a full-time adventure, would you utilize my services? And they said, absolutely, like, we've been waiting for you. So
Okay.
I, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. They said
Oh,
okay.
okay. So yeah, I started talking to the owners of the funeral homes, and they were just like, absolutely, we would use you. And I had to research about how to do contracts and how to, make sure that this was not, because some people start businesses and they think, well, this is something I'm going to do for 2 or 3 months, or something I might try for a year. But when you start a business, you definitely have to have a foundation and a plan. So there were other people in my church that were business owners, and I actually sat with them and was like, okay, how do we put together a business plan? How do you do the financial part of it? Is there a place where I can get started? And I would encourage anyone who is looking to start a business, look into your community to see if they have a small business bureau or chamber of commerce, where you can get information on seed money, grants, startup funds. I started in my home. So, and as probably you probably can't see, but I actually have an office now. But I actually grew out of my home into another space, and then I grew out of that space into now I'm in a bigger space. Um, we have staff. There are so many different components that go into owning a business and how far you want to take it. It could be something that's just a small business for you that's online, and you don't really have to deal with the customers, one on one. But you can make your business however you envision it, whatever God gives you the vision, or however God gives you your vision. You take ownership of it and make it what you need it to be. There were a lot of mistakes that I made along the way, but I thank God that God surrounded me with people with wisdom. Dr. Marci actually is one of those people who was able to help me dissect even some of the mistakes that I was making in business. Like, maybe you don't want to do this way. So always have a good foundation of advisors, especially
Mm-hmm.
people that are in your industry or people that you trust, that have business minds. Surround
Mm-hmm.
yourself with people that are going where you want to go, that are at the level that you want to be at. Because how can you get information from someone who has no information, or that has no vision, or no stick to itiveness, or no consistency, or no confidence? And that's another thing that I'll talk about too, later, about the confidence part. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, surround yourself and get yourself around some good people.
You are absolutely right about that, because you need to have a team of professionals. And what I hear you saying is that you did your research. You got
Absolutely.
uh, help from people and individuals that you trusted. No man is an island. You couldn't do this by yourself. So, what we're going to
Absolutely not.
do is take a break right now, and we're going to come back. And I want you to tell us the major thing that you had, at least one major thing, and you decide what that's going to be, that you had to overcome in order to go into this business full time. And then,
Hmm.
second, tell us about two, at least two of your success stories. Okay.
Okay.
Prayer is our pipeline to God. And let's face it, we all need prayer from time to time. If you are standing in need of prayer, please contact us through our prayer line 909-318-7015. We have 24/7 prayer warriors available for you, so you can call at any time. God wants to hear from you. He wants to meet your need today. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Tanya Tilghman, who is the owner of CYPT Designs. And she has some amazing, amazing testimonies that she's sharing with you. And right now, what we want to do is to have her share with you one of the major hurdles that she had to overcome. Because someone watching today, I'm feeling led, is they want to start their business and they just see so many obstacles. And I know this young lady personally, and she had a lot of obstacles too, but she's going to share an obstacle that she had to overcome to do what she's doing now. And then after she shares that obstacle, we want her to give us a couple of success stories that encourage her to keep going.
Okay. All right. So I think one of my major hurdles, and people may not see this as being a hurdle, but it was a hurdle, definitely a hurdle for me. So hopefully, I'll be speaking to someone who's watching today. Um, but one of my hurdles was self-confidence and self-confidence in my product, in the product that I had, because sometimes God gives us a vision and we look at it and think it's so insignificant, or that it may not be important, or how would people utilize this. And when I say self-confidence, I mean confident in that what I was designing and the product that I had would be good enough. um, and a lot of people, they deal with a feeling of not being sufficient or not being good enough. So once I had done my research and saw there were other companies out there that did what I did, I kind of felt like, well, they don't need me. My designs aren't at this level. But one of the things that is really important when you're an entrepreneur, and when you have your own business or whatever your craft may be, is to continue to be educated, to continue to be teachable, continue to learn. So if there are classes or seminars and things that you can take to make your product better, take those classes and take those and do those things that you need to do to be able to make your craft better. So
Mhm.
when I started off my designs, they seemed basic to me. But what I realized was that my basic was exactly what someone needed. And our motto here is to make a dark experience something that can be beautiful. So, right before I had started my business, a few months later, COVID hit. COVID hit. And of course, a lot of people know that we stopped gathering together as groups. So people weren't having a lot of funerals. I mean, there was a lot of death, but there weren't a lot of services. So I would go from printing 300 programs for a service to maybe 25 programs for a service, because only 10 to 15 people could actually come. So
Mhm.
I was able to change my product to not only a program that, like you see a lot of programs, they're basic white piece of paper, order a service.
Mhm.
But what I
Mhm.
started creating were memory books, or programs that were timelines that took you through the person's life, that were a little bit more intimate and intricate in the designs. The second thing that I did was started utilizing technology. So instead of printing a lot of programs, we started adding QR codes on programs so people could access things digitally, having QR boards at services so people wouldn't have to touch programs, but they could take their smartphones and scan a code and have access to a program. Another thing that we did, there was a funeral home that is here locally, and I can say their name, Evan W. Smith Funeral Services. They are one of my clients. And what they started doing was having drive-through viewing. So actually, before you would go to a service and the body would be in front of you and you walk by and do the viewing. Well, during COVID, a lot of people weren't interacting. So they actually had a window where you could drive by and view your loved one or your friend. And at the end of the drive by, there would be a QR code at the end where you could scan and get the program. So it was important to establish new products, establish partnerships, stronger partnerships with the clients that I did have, because during the time of COVID, we really had to become creative in what we
Mhm.
were doing. So we were one of the
Mhm.
first agencies to put QR codes on funeral programs. So that was
Mhm.
definitely an awesome
Were
experience
all
to
the
be.
compliment were all the compliments you were getting about what you were doing help you overcome your lack of self-confidence?
Yes. Well, and not only the compliments, because you have to remember, in business, everyone isn't going to applaud you. Everyone isn't
That's
going to
right.
have the time to
That's
come
true.
back and say thank you. And one of the things that I learned was to go where you're celebrated and not just tolerated. So what I and I learned that from Dr. Marcy, right? So what I began to do was to congratulate myself on the small steps. There were times that when I started business, I didn't know how I was going to pay the rent in my first locations. But then when I started being able to pay my rent just out of my business money and not being able, having to take anything from my personal money to be able to pay the bills of the business, those are things that are celebrated. So be certain to celebrate even the small accomplishments, because they may be things that you think are insignificant to others, but they're important to you. So celebrate those small
Yeah.
steps. Celebrate
Mm-hmm.
those small
Yeah.
steps when you're
So
able
you
to.
started celebrating the small
Yes.
steps that you made. You did the work by going to local funeral homes and asking
Mhm.
them for their services if you could provide the service, and they said yes. And you got away from the standard look of a funeral program and came up, because
Mhm.
I've seen some of your programs and they're absolutely amazing. Especially taking it through the life of the individual, and
Mhm.
so these are things that people are holding dear. Where Tell us now how the kinds of products you make in a nutshell,
Okay.
and also how people can get in touch with you if they want to use your services.
Okay. So what we offer, we do various size programs in different quantities. We go up from, we do, I think our minimal quantity may be 50, and our largest quantity we are doing in the thousands of programs. We've done a few dignitary programs for officials, political officials, and school officials here in Delaware. I was recently contracted to do a program for Dr. Pritchett. He was the principal, the longtime principal of Bayer Elementary School here in Wilmington, Delaware. And at his service, there was a representative from Canada, and the gentleman that had attended the service, he knew a funeral home director in Toronto, Canada, and the funeral home director from Toronto called me and he said, "We've never seen any product like this, and we want to
Wow,
know how we can utilize your service." And
that's wonderful.
I gave my information, and the next day we shipped 350 programs to Toronto, Canada. So, can you picture this design now has representation in Canada, where we're doing services for a local funeral home there. So that to me was very encouraging, considering I had started from, my first program I ever did was for a friend of mine, her grandmother. And that was back in 2000, I believe, probably 14 or 15. And from that point on, we've been consistently growing. So,
Wow.
how you can get in contact with me, we are on the
Hmm.
World Wide Web. You can visit our website at www.cyptd.com, or you can reach us by phone at 302-353-9861. We are also on social media platforms. We are on Instagram and Facebook at CYPT Designs, for Instagram and Facebook. But mostly people just call, which is great because I do like to talk to people and I like to talk to our clients and our families. And we do custom designs based on what the family member wants to, or how they want to remember. So we take
Hmm.
lives and make them beautiful. No one really wants to ever deal with death and everything that comes with it. But we just hope that our products bring bright memories and bright moments to one of the darkest times in our clients' lives.
And I agree. I am very familiar with your work and very familiar with the products that you put out there, and they're absolutely amazing. And those memory blankets, they are fine. The T-shirts, I'm telling you, you do an excellent job. And I thank
Thank you.
God that you're out there serving the public, the community, and especially the Christian population. And now
Hmm.
God has blessed you to be extended beyond the United States of America. God
Yes,
bless you for
yes.
that. Yes. And so, what advice would you give someone that is looking at the show now, especially if they have an entrepreneur spirit in their maybe take a good 30 seconds and give them some advice.
I have 3 words for you. Just do it. Step out
Just
on
do
faith. Just do it. Step out on faith and just believe in the God and trust the God that lives inside of you. Trust your abilities, trust your talents and your gifts. That God gave them to you to be a blessing to someone else. They're just not for us to hold
Yeah.
inside, but use our gifts to bless someone else. I've had so many families call and say, thank you for just blessing us with this program and this gift. It's absolutely beautiful, and it serves as a good memorial for their loved ones. So whatever God has given you, whatever talent, just use it and he will get the glory and you'll be edified for it. Trust me, you will be blessed for it. So
Yes. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for that word of advice. And thank you for being my guest on today. And I pray that everything that you've said is making a difference in the lives of someone who's watching the show today. So you have
thank
a
you.
fantastic week in the Lord. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And you remember, you heard it here. You can be all that God has called you to be. So go out and just do it. God
Just
bless
do
you.
it.
See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Marci.
You're welcome. God bless
All
you.
right.
Prayer is our pipeline to God. And let's face it, we all need prayer from time to time. If you are standing in need of prayer, please contact us through our prayer line 909-318-7015. We have 24/7 prayer warriors available for you, so you can call at any time. God wants to hear from you. He wants to meet your need today.
Are you looking for a new career? A chance to be your own boss? Life coaching is part of a $2.8 billion global industry. With the increased demand for coaching services, now is the time to start a lucrative business that provides the satisfaction of helping others achieve their goals. Quality life coaches are certified by an accredited organization and are trained to provide the best services for their clients. That's where our virtual life coach certification training comes in. You can become certified and begin your journey to an uplifting career as a personal life coach. Our Power Up for Success accredited program makes sure you obtain the core coaching skills needed, while also assisting in developing your personal marketing plan for success. Get started by visiting CertifiedLifeCoach.com and get your free ebook today.